There have been many conspiracies surrounding the royal family over the years, from the princes in the tower to the idea that they are undercover lizards from outer space. They really have had everything speculated about them. For most people, a conspiracy theory is only worth their attention if it comes with some kind of evidence or proof. So at first thought, the idea that Queen Elizabeth I never actually reigned over England seems ridiculous and implausible. Today we'll be going over the evidence for this theory, and whether there is any chance it could actually be true. Firstly, to address the biggest issue with this theory, which is the fact there are hundreds of paintings and tens of thousands of quotes that show the Queen to have been real. Irish author Bram Stoker claimed, "There is no doubt an individual claiming to be Queen Elizabeth did rule over Britain. However, the real Queen Elizabeth died of plague in childbirth, and it was in fact a young boy who took her place." The story goes that in 1543, Elizabeth was sent away to a countryside retreat to avoid the threat of plague within the city. Not too long after, she was said to have passed away through illness. With Henry VIII set to visit his daughter soon, the governess tasked with looking after the supposed future queen feared what consequences she may face from His Majesty. The governess at this point decided she could not let the king find out his daughter had passed away under her watch, and so she set off to a nearby town to attempt to find a suitable replacement. Sadly for the governess, there was no girl of a suitable age that looked anything like the deceased Elizabeth. However, there was one person that could just about be passed off as her. There was one problem, however. The child was a boy called Neville. Not long after, King Henry VIII made the journey to the village of Bisley in hope of reuniting with his daughter. Due to the fact the king has visited his daughter very rarely, and the known fact that the real Elizabeth was a shy child, Henry, who at the time was not in a good condition, plagued with festering sores, had no suspicion that the child he had visited was not his daughter, especially when seen under the dimly lit rooms of Bisley Manor. A few hundred years later, it was said that the body of Elizabeth was found during building work. The man who allegedly found the body, Reverend Thomas Keble, told his family the body was wearing an Elizabethan dress. It is said he reburied the body in a different location. So what were some of the clues in later life that could point to the fact that the Queen was in fact a king in disguise? Firstly, the attitude of the Queen was so different to those shown by other women at the time. She came across as fierce and strong in personality, and her physical appearance could also point to the fact that there was more to the royal than meets the eye. The Queen was known to wear wigs, perhaps to hide a receding hairline. She was also known to put vast amounts of makeup on her face, which could easily hide the identity of the individual beneath. Another arguably stronger piece of evidence supporting this theory is a piece of writing by the advisor to Philip II of Spain. He wrote, "If my spies do not lie, which I believe they do not, for a certain reason which they have recently given me, I understand that she will not bear children." Could this certain reason be that the Queen could definitely not give birth, due to the fact she didn't have any female reproductive organs? Another interesting quote written at the time came from the tutor of Elizabeth, who said her mind was exempt from female weakness and that she was endued with the masculine power of application. Although with patriarchal attitudes of that era, it isn't surprising that a woman with intelligence was compared to a man. He also hinted towards the fact that there was a swift personality change of young Elizabeth, saying the girl who swallowed up information like a sponge was now more like a shallow cup. Could this personality change have been due to a personnel change and the fact it was not Elizabeth anymore? Queen Elizabeth I was also well known to refuse any external physicians to examine her, and would only instead be seen by her royal physicians. She also made clear that there would be no post-mortem of her body after her death. The portraits taken of Elizabeth as a child and teen are also interesting when the conspiracy is kept in mind. Now the theory claims Elizabeth was sent to Bisley in 1543, and not too long after, she was said to have passed away. This portrait of a young Elizabeth is estimated to have been painted in 1546, but that of course is just an estimation, so the idea it could have been done 2 or 3 years earlier, in 1543 or early 1544, is a reasonable suggestion. Now when compared to this portrait, done around a decade later, it's clear some drastic changes have occurred to the appearance of Elizabeth. Her thin, structured face and feminine dress sense looks to be non-existent in the later portrait. This of course was probably just down to the ageing of the Queen. However, the idea that one of the most prominent figures in British history never existed and was instead just a young village boy in one of history's largest cover-ups is far more exciting.